everybody, welcome back to my channel. As promised, in this video we're doing Mercury in Aquarius. Second last Mercury video, and then after this we're gonna do Mercury in Aquarius, through the houses like we always do, right? But yeah, in this video we're doing Mercury in Aquarius, and I'm super stoked because I'm an Aquarius rising, and Aquarius energy is something that I absolutely adore and love and just wanna eat up all the time. Anyway, yeah, let's just get straight into the video. So what is Aquarius, right? Because we already know what Mercury is, and we can watch all my other Mercury videos to understand what Mercury is. But Aquarius is ruled by the 11th house. It's ruled by Saturn, and it's co-ruled by Uranus, right? Uranus is one of those outer planets that rule, it's more so like a generational planet along with Neptune and Pluto, where they kind of like have an influence on a particular generation. That's why different generations have a different vibe, you know, because of Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. Yeah, so people born between like I have my Uranus in Aquarius, and I know people born from I think 1998 to about like 2009 maybe, I don't know. They have like a Uranus in Aquarius. Not 2009, 2003 I think. Is it? I don't know. Anyway, but my point is to say that Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are all generational planets, right? So they have a larger influence on, as I said, a generation, right? So everybody born within that generation will be influenced by those particular signs, right? And Aquarius, along with Scorpio and Pisces, they are ruled by these outer planets. So these are the signs, these three signs. That's why they have a lot more I want to say a greater aura, or like they have a lot more mystery to them. Let me say that. They have a lot more mystery to them just because they have like an extra emphasis on, you know, like an outer planet that co-rules them, that co-influences their general archetype. You know what I'm saying? So with Scorpio, with Pluto, they're already ruled by Mars, right? So Pluto just adds like longevity, because Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus will have like a longevity effect, you know. So a Scorpio being co-ruled by Pluto, they're passionate, but because Pluto is there, they'll be passionate, but they can hold on their passions for a long period of time, or longevity of time. Aquarius, right? They're ruled by Saturn, but they're co-ruled by Uranus. So Aquarius know how to build structure for themselves, right? But they do it in their own unique rebellious way, because that's what Uranus is about, you know, rebelling and changing and just reforming things. It's very similar to Pluto, only Pluto, Uranus is more unpredictable, but it happens like a lot. Like the transformation of Uranus happens a lot more frequently than the transformation of Pluto, because the transformation of Pluto could happen like once. It happens like, it's like one transformation, but that transformation is very big and the influence is very heavy, whereas the Uranus influence isn't necessarily so heavy. It is big, but it's a lot more light, you know. So it's like I want to compare, like, I want to say Uranus it's giving more like, if I can compare it to a sign, it would be Gemini, you know, because it's a lot more light and it's not necessarily emotionally heavy. Uranus isn't emotionally heavy. So when it changes something, I would say it's also for like the greater good of something, like it's for the better. But then when Pluto does it, like when Pluto changes and transforms, it puts like an end to something, but for good. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Uranus, it can still like dibble and dabble and change back and then change from here. But even though they kind of they still change, like they still, Pluto and Uranus are changed, like they're transformative signs, you know. But as I explained, you know, Uranus is a lot less light, like a lot less darker than Pluto, and Pluto is like very, very dark and very deadly, and a lot more, a lot more sinister, you know. Anyway, and then for Pisces, they're ruled by Jupiter, but they're co-ruled by Neptune. So they're did I say wait? And go quickly before I continue with this. But Aquarius being co-ruled by Uranus, as I said. I think I said this, but they know how to create their own structure in their own lives, and they know how to be their own authoritative figure, so that they have their own independency. You know what I'm saying? So it's the Saturn aspect is that they know how to create their own reality and their own life and have structure. But then the Uranus co-ruling part is that they want to do that for themselves and make up their own rules and rebel against the pre-existing rules, so that they can, you know, decide for themselves how they want to live, you know. So in that way, it's like a lot more rebellious, but it's cool because Uranus is a cool planet, you know. Uranus is that cool person that we want to be, you know, because they're just so unique and like so indie and so vibey and just like, oh my god, I want to be your friend. And then with moving on to to Pisces, Pisces. So Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and is co-ruled by Neptune, right? So Pisces have the ability to add dreams and illusions and imaginations into their wisdom, or they get wisdom from their dreams, imagination, illusions, intuition, etc., you know. So these three signs have like a outer worldly kind of vibe to them. Basically, Scorpios, Aquariuses, and Pisces will always have this outer worldly vibe to them, or like very mysterious type vibe, you know, where it's just like there's so much to you, but it's like no one can really fathom or really get to understand it, because even Aquariuses, Scorpios, and Pisces may struggle to understand themselves and the events that happen in their lives. And I'm telling you now, it's because you co-ruled by these outer worldly planets, so you know you have a greater influence in the world. You know, that's vibes. But moving on to, I just had to say that so you understand like why, you know, Aquarius has this god complex too. You know, Aquarius energy has a god complex. Scorpio energy has a godly complex. Pisces energy also has this godlike complex. So I just wanted to run that so we all, you know, like all on like the same page. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, with Aquarius, right? So Aquarius, as I said, it's ruled by the 11th house. 11th house is the house of, you know, social media, existential topics, really, you know. It rules like science, technology, anything that deals with like leaving the mundane things that we do in life and looking towards like the, I guess, larger way of thinking. Not like seeing the world like Sagittarius does, right? But Sagittarius and Aquarius have a lot in common because they are broad thinkers. They think like on a bigger, I don't want to say yeah, it is, let me say that Aquariuses and Sagittariuses think objectively. They know how to like put themselves in like this aerial point of view, and I remember saying this in my Mercury and Sagittarius video where I said Saggies, Aquariuses, and Pisces have this thing where it's like their bodies are floating on top of, like, not their bodies, but their spirit, or like their, I guess, yeah, their spirit is just, it feels like they're always constantly floating above their own body and just observing everything, you know. So it's like this detached way of living life, because you're always seeing life from like an objective, observant point of view, perspective, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I remember saying that with the Sagittarius video, so check that out if you want to get more like, you know, kind of a clue on how Sagittarius and Aquarius mix and mingle together. But Aquarius being ruled by the 11th house, as I was saying, and Saturn co-ruled by Uranus, and then being a fixed air sign, right? We know fixed meaning you stay stubborn and consistent in whatever particular decision you made, interest you have, you know. But in this case it's air, so Aquariuses are stubborn with how they think, so you can't change an Aquarius's mind, or you can't try and direct how they should think, because an Aquarius energy period is always gonna do what it wants to do. And if you try to place specific rules and, you know, specific things for them to follow, here comes the co-ruler Uranus saying, bitch, you thought bitch, you thought, but no. And then they start rebelling, and then rebelling can look like ghosting you. It can look like, you know, just being a fucking asshole, because Aquariuses can be big time assholes, big time cutthroat assholes that like hurt your feelings and shit like that, you know. But for the most part, as I said, Aquariuses, because of that Saturn Uranus aspect, it's more so like I said, and because they're fixed, it's like they like to stay fixed on their own way of thinking and practicalizing their own lives, you know. So if you put this in Mercury is how we think and communicate with others and ourselves, you know, just information that we give to others and information that we feed ourselves. So if you put all of that, if you put Aquarius and the archetype of Aquarius and everything that makes up Aquarius into Mercury, this is how you think, right? So Aquarius, Mercuries, they have a very stubborn way of thinking, and they have a very unique way of thinking too, right? But I like to say that Aquarius is actually exalted in Mercury, right? And here's why. Because Mercury is just how we think, how we process data. You know, Mercury has nothing to do with emotions. Mercury, even though it's next to, maybe not say next to the moon. My very Mercury, Venus, Earth. My very energetic mother. Yeah, okay, anyway, I was about to say Mercury is next to Earth, but it's kind of close to Earth, you know? And I suppose kind of close to the moon or whatever. But what I'm trying to get at is that Mercury doesn't do, it's not like the moon or Mars or even Jupiter, where, you know, that's where emotions reside, because those planets rule water signs, you know, like the moon rules Cancer, Mars rules Scorpio, and then Jupiter rules Pisces, you know. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, and those are earth and air signs, and earth and air has to do with logic and practicality, right? So there's very little room for placing emotions as like a top priority, or is like it's not like air and earth signs, it's not second nature for them to, you know, live in their emotions, because for them they're cerebral people, you know, especially Virgo and Gemini, because they're ruled by Mercury, right? And I mean, this applies because we're talking about Mercury right now, you know. But anyway, like Mercury is just how we process and we think about things. It's like this disposition of giving information and taking information, right? And it's about logic and facts and what we can prove to be there, you know? Like how we can figure out a situation. It's basically using your brain, you know? And I feel like most of the time your brain has nothing to do with like your emotion and your emotional state. That, you know, that's for your heart, and you know what I'm saying, you know? But when we put Aquarius here, right, and why I say it's exalted is that Aquarius is already an air sign, right? So Mercury likes to be in air signs because air signs deal with thinking and communicating. And that's what Mercury does. Mercury allows us to think and communicate, right? But here's the thing also. Your Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus, right? So already Aquarius is a very logical sign. It's a very scientific 11th house. Scientific, you know, what's the facts? What's the cold, hard facts, aka Saturn? Because Saturn is a hard planet, you know. Saturn is opposite. It's opposite to the sun and the moon, you know. And the sun is our vitality. It rules Leo, and the moon rules Cancer. So those signs are like the feeling signs, you know. Fire and water are the feeler signs. They're the ones that connect to the emotions, right? And then the opposite of the sun and the moon is Saturn. Saturn has no emotions. Saturn doesn't function on feelings. Saturn is about what can we do that is logical and practical. Like what are the facts? You know what I'm saying? And then if we add Uranus is like a very far away planet, you know. So those planets are very cold because they're far away from the sun. And mind you, the sun is the thing that keeps us warm and shit. You know what I'm saying? So as above, so below. Aquariuses and Capricorns too, because they're ruled by Saturn. I would say Pisces, but Pisces, I think if this is actually, but we're not talking about Pisces right now. We'll get to that in the next video, right? But I'm getting to the point that Aquarius' ruling planets, Saturn and Uranus, they're very cold planets. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't deal with emotions. Especially Saturn. Saturn deals with how do we constructively do something practical that makes sense, that, you know, we don't even, it's like, you know, when you build a house, you don't need to like express your emotions about, oh my god, I feel like this brick is like, so it's making me feel, you know what I'm saying? You just build because you know you want to get to the final product. So that's what Saturn is. It's about, okay, what can we do? What are the steps we're going to take to get this shit done? Right? Cool. That is how Aquarius is also process things, right? But because Uranus is there, it adds unpredictability, it adds uniqueness, it adds like quirky eccentricity, it adds individualistic individualism. It adds rebelling, you know, going against the grain or going against the status quo and creating your own rules for yourself, right? So when you put that in Mercury, this is how somebody thinks. So I expect an Aquarius Mercury to have like a very weird way of communicating. Now, personally, I found that Mercury and Aquariuses, listen, an Aquarius Mercury, they, because it's a air Mercury, they are able to communicate, and they're very fast talkers too. Like, they love to communicate just as much as Gemini Mercuries like to communicate, and just as much as Libra Mercuries like to communicate, you know. And I was getting to the point of why Mercury is exalted in Aquarius is because Mercury also doesn't deal with emotions, right? So if we put Aquarius here, and mind you, Aquarius is a genius, and Aquarius is an air sign, so naturally they like to think too. They are overthinkers and they like to figure out puzzles, right? So when we put Aquarius in Mercury, I feel like it's exalted because here Mercury can get to think in every way it wants to think, and it can dissect topics without having to feel any emotions, without having to consider any emotions. That's why I feel like Mercury in Aquarius people, similar to like Geminis and Scorpios and Virgos, where they are like very perceptive and they understand, you know, reading in between the lines, and especially Aquarius and Scorpios, because they know how to read in between the lines but also see the intention, and then also with that perceive the type of person that you are just based off the vibe you gave from one conversation. And then with that, an Aquarius Mercury can kind of, with all the interactions that you have with them, they can kind of build in that way. Like, the more you speak to an Aquarius Mercury, and then like the more they get to figure you out just based on the simple conversations that you have. You don't even have to necessarily tell an Aquarius Mercury about yourself. It's really even just the simple things that you say. Like, you could tell an Aquarius Mercury, I am a soccer player, you know, those little details about you, and you don't even have to go deep in them. But for them, an Aquarius Mercury, they like to already dissect the information that has been given to them and try to try to, like, you know, get to the conclusion of who you are and why you even play soccer, you know, and the type of, like, how it's like an Aquarius Mercury, they'll judge you based off of how you think, but not necessarily like judging you in a Virgo way where they can make you feel bad about what you do. Because this Aquarius is a weird sign, so they're like, oh well, like, let people be weird because I'm already a fucking weirdo, so let it be. For Aquarius, it's more so a thing of like, they're judging you in a, oh wow, look at this, look, here's another human doing human shit, that type of thing. Like, you know, that's how they judge you. But it's never, I want to say it's never condescending, but really it is condescending. It can be condescending, but it's not for them to feel very superior. Damn, I'm going to be paradoxically contradicting myself. Because here, on one thing, having an Aquarius Mercury gives you a godlike complex in terms of how you think and how you communicate. Like, how you think is a very unique way of thinking, you know, and as I said, it's a very objective way, and you think from a very broad from a broad existential way, you know, like your thoughts are rooted in, oh well, like I don't know, like, oh my god, I don't have to be with my, like, you know how I guess in tradition, like, you have to favor your parents because family is what matters the most. An Aquarius Mercury won't think that. They'll just think like, oh, well, everybody, like the whole wide world is kind of like my family. So they'll treat and they'll see and they'll think and talk to everybody very like the same because of that stubborn quality also. But they'll think and communicate to everybody the same, you know, because they view everybody the same, because they view everybody from an objective point of view. Very similar to Sagittarius and also very similar to Pisces, because these signs are like signs that like treat people the same or with the same compassion, with the same amount of distance. And that's why an Aquarius can ghost anybody. They'll ghost their own mother, they'll ghost, you know, and by ghost them, for them, you see, Aquarius is more so like taking time away from people, you know, because the opposite of Saturn is the sun, right? And the sun is our vitality and energy, basically the energy that we have. Leos have a lot of energy. Aries is exalted in the sun. That's why Aries have a lot of energy to do a whole bunch of shit. Even the lazy Aries, like, they'll be lazy, but when it's time for them to do something, they have a whole bunch of energy to do that, you know? But Aquarius is opposite from the sun, so they don't necessarily have body vitality or energy to do things. So all that energy goes up into their brain, very similar to Libra. That's why Libras, like, they're like very lazy, but that's why Libra can talk your ear off, because all that energy that a Leo will have physically, a Libra will have that mentally. Same thing with Aquarius. Aquarius won't have like body vitality to do a whole bunch of shit, but best believe like they have all their vitality in the mental, so all that energy goes up into their cerebral. That's why these particular air signs, Libra and Aquarius, they can think and talk all day, but mostly think, because if they're not going to talk, definitely know that they're thinking and analyzing. Because when they're not thinking and analyzing, they're talking a lot. And Aquarius Mercuries can talk a lot. But what they talk about is more so like the existential shit. Like, they're not like a Libra Mercury or a Gemini Mercury, where they, like, Libra Mercury and Gemini Mercury are able to like small talk, and, you know, especially Libras, because they know how to build a conversation, and they know how to direct a conversation, you know, and they know how to start a conversation. So, you know, they know how to like break the ice, and, you know, like, Libras just have that elegance because they are exalted in Saturn. But like how Aquarius and Libra express their Saturnness is obviously different, because Libra has Venus there, so Libra will be a lot more like pleasant, and, you know, because they have Venus, so Venus makes things soft and cute and, you know, real hot girl shit type vibes. But then Aquarius, because it's just ruled by Saturn, and that's just a cold planet, you know. And then there's also Uranus, which is very rebellious. So, but there are air signs, so the relatability is still there. But I feel like if you had to, I don't know, I want to say if you had to choose between a Libra and Aquarius, like, who would be the most pleasant to be around, it would probably be a Libra. Because also Aquarius is, like I said, very cold, hard, like, they're very factual. At least a Libra will sometimes spare, or they'll sugarcoat how they say things, you know. So I guess in that way it's pleasant, but maybe not always honest. Yeah. Maybe not honest. But Aquarius, they'll be cool, like, because they're like just a cool, like, Aquarius is a very cool sign. It's like super dope. Like, oh man, I want to be just like you, you know. But they're not necessarily pleasant. Like, Aquarius doesn't mind being very cutthroat with you, you know, because they're very, just like Sagittarius, they're very, very cutthroat, very blunt, honest, straightforward, to the point. But their uniqueness comes when they're sarcastic, because here's the thing with Aquarius. Aquarius is a very sarcastic sign, or where they like asking you like rhetorical questions, or during a conversation they might even initiate a conversation, and then mid-conversation that they initiated, they'll just like zone the fuck out and like leave a conversation and not even be interested to continue that shit. So that's like where the little rebellion comes from, you know. And also the thing of, because they're so rebellious and like, you know, individualistic, these are the type of people that like to, kind of like Geminis, they'll start an argument. But for Aquarius, it's not necessarily to get your emotions like rattled up, unless they have like an Aries moon or Leo moon, Scorpio moon, Sag moon, maybe even a Gemini moon, you know, because Gemini moons can be annoying like that. But with Aquarius Mercuries, these guys like to, like, they'll say something, but they just want to get your reaction back in terms of like what you're gonna say, so that they can know how you think about something, you know, because that's the thing, like that's the whole thing with the mental, like they're mental based, you know. So if they want to get a reaction out of you, it's mostly just to test a hypothesis that they had, not in a way to, I guess, gain dominance over you like a Scorpio would, where they want to have control over you, or you know what I'm saying, that type of thing. For Aquarius, it's really just to know how you are, you know. And that's where that little detached thing comes in, because Aquarius really can be very egotistical or self-consumed, because the opposite is Leo, and Leos are like the most self-consumed sign, and then Aries, or I don't know, both of them have that thing. I don't know who's like more self-consumed, but Aquariuses can also get there. In fact, Aquariuses are there really, because for them it's like they will feel like, and this is where they share similarities with Aquarius, with Scorpio and Aries, where they may like it's them they'll have issues relating to people. This is I'm filming this during a retrograde, and the retrograde is like in Aquarius jumping to Capricorn, which is really funny, but whatever. I'm just like, if you're wondering why I'm studying more than usual, this is why. But anyway, what was I saying? Aquarius. Oh yeah, I was saying that Aquarius, like they're very detached, right? They have that detached quality because it's an air sign, you know. So even if an Aquarius like arises an emotion in you, they're not, when they say things, they're not necessarily looking to make you feel something. They could give a fuck about making you feel anything, because they themselves will struggle to process their own emotions. So when you even come to approach an Aquarius, you don't even get the sense that like they're communicating from an emotional place. Like it won't be like a Cancer Mercury, or even a Pisces Mercury, or a Scorpio. Okay, you won't really get the sense from a Scorpio Mercury either, but it won't be like a Cancer Mercury, where you can kind of sense that this person is communicating how they feel, and they're using like their emotions to, you know, you're not gonna get that sense from an Aquarius Mercury. Like Aquarius Mercuries, they're either like, because they're like Geminis in that sense, where they're very witty and, you know, very good with the words, you know. All air Mercuries will have that quality, where they're like fast talkers and, you know, very intellectual and cerebral and sapiosexuals in that sense, you know. And also share the fact that they're detached. So when they communicate, you never really get the sense that they're coming from an emotional place. They're just communicating things like out of their head, you know. It's like spaced out. There's no weight to it, especially with Aquarius Mercuries. When they communicate, it really is like, it's like stark. Listen, and especially if they have like a water sign moon, oh my god, these can be the funniest people actually. Aquarius Mercuries are hilarious in this sense, because here's why, right? Especially if they have a water moon sign, right? Because with having your water moon, right, you feeling everything, like you feel intensely, you feel deeply, but then if you try to explain how you feel, if you even try to communicate that, it's gonna seem very light, because of your Mercury in Aquarius, and it's an air sign, right? And air is it's like there's no weight to air, you know. Air is here and everywhere. You can feel it, but it's not heavy. It's not weighing down on you like holding a rock would, or being in the water would, or, you know, being in a fire that would burn you. But being in, like, air is very light in general. So how you communicate has that lightness. So your words don't necessarily hold weight. They're sharp. They can be sharp and they can hurt like that, but they don't hold weight. Like, they're not heavy like a Mercury in Scorpio would, or even a Mercury in Cancer would, where you can kind of, where sometimes when they speak, you can tell like, whoa, you thought about that for a long time, hey, like that was sitting with you for a long time. Like, you won't get that sense when you're speaking to air Mercuries. But if you push an Aquarius Mercury to a point where like they have to use their Saturn, their harsh, hard words on you, you'll kind of feel it. And once again, like, it'll sting, but it won't feel heavy. Like, it won't be a lasting effect like it would. Like, if a Mercury in Aquarius person told you to fuck off, you know, it'll kind of hurt. It'll hurt you a lot. But then you'll you'll get over it, like, whatever. But if a Mercury in Scorpio said that, because it has a lasting effect and because Pluto is there, it'll feel a lot heavier. And I'm using this so you can kind of like compare the shit, like, oh, okay. So you can kind of, you know, have the influence of how it would feel, you know. Tav means understand in Josie slang, whatever. But that's how Mercury and Aquarius people, how they communicate is once again very unique and original, you know. But it has like it has traces of like their own individuality, you know. And because once again, because they're stubborn, it's very hard to get these people to change their minds. So if they have made up in their minds what a particular person is, for example, right? And this is how they're also scientists in that way. An Aquarius Mercury can meet you, right? They'll meet you, they'll study you and be like, oh, okay, you're this type of person, right? And because they know you as that type of person, they won't change their minds about how they think about you. Because once they put you in a certain category, it's done. Like, you're gonna be there for a long time, you know, forever, whatever. Maybe forever, depends. But they put you in a category and they're like, okay, you're this type of person. But here's the thing, because Aquarius Mercury, they apply their logic no matter where they go. If they go to, for example, if an Aquarius Mercury lives in South Africa, right? Let's say they live in Cape Town and they obviously grew up around there. If they move to like China or Spain and they meet people similar to the people that they know, they're gonna know how to treat those same people, because they'll figure like, oh, okay, well, I know people like you back at home, so if I treat you the same, then you probably just like them, so I might as well treat you the same. So that's how, you know, it's like their own unique way of doing things, and there's really no way of like changing it or convincing them to do otherwise, because it's the thing of like Mercury won't even like deeply explain how they do things, because they also have like that mysterious aspect. Scorpios, Aquariuses, Pisces, and who else? Capricorns too. They have this thing where it's like a privacy thing, but for different reasons though, you know. For Aquarius, it's more so a thing of like, they'll feel like, oh, well, what's the point in even like explaining this, because it's gonna cause for some dramatic emotional thing, and I don't want to really interact with that, you know, because they're not emotionally based, you know. But a Scorpio, they'll do that because they want to protect their emotions, because they want to protect their soft spots, you know. And then a Pisces, they'll hide also for the same thing. They'll feel like, oh, nobody should have the access to know me like that, you know, because Pisces also wants to have the freedom to like swim in and out of things, you know. And then Capricorn, they just won't tell you because they're also very similar to Scorpio. It's just privacy, you know. It's more so privacy, but as I explained, for different reasons, you know. Because Aquarius, especially Aquarius Mercuries or moons, if you have this conjunct, then you definitely are into like esoteric things, you know, like existentialism. But these are more so just so you can add on to the information that you already have about life in general. You know, because I'm very sure from a young age, like, you already grew up being an observer, you know, kind of grew up being kind of, maybe, especially if you have this with your sun sign, if you have, like, your sun conjunct your Mercury, you already, like, have this awkward-ish, you know, quirky type of vibe about you, you know. And even when you talk, like, you're like a big nerd when you communicate with people, you know, and it's like super cool, especially because when you get into an interest, like, you also have this tendency of becoming very obsessed with a specific topic, you know. And I don't want to, it's not like penetrating, like, it's not like, how do I say this? For you, it's more so to get to the scientific conclusion of things, like, oh, okay, you're just like that, you know. But you don't have an interest on like trying to control or use that as like a control thing to control people with, as like a Capricorn would, or even a Scorpio would, you know. Like, for you to understand people, that's just for your own curiosity and for you to understand, like, oh yeah. And of course you do get Aquariuses that will use like information like that against people just to get something, because Aquariuses can be users too. Yeah, Aquariuses can be big time users. And like Capricorns, you know, they only friends with people because of what they're gonna gain from a situation, you know. But for the most part, like, even in that situation, Aquarius doesn't even mind like leaving and starting their whole thing. Like, as Aquariuses don't mind changing their lives like constantly, because they feel like they already have the common sense to start over again and build from wherever they are, because, you know, in their heads they're fucking genius and they can create and, you know, alchemize whatever reality they want, you know. Aquarius Mercury, it's giving Rick from Rick and Morty. Yeah, it's giving Rick. You know, that's how you think. You're very detached, but sometimes your words can hurt, you know. But it's not necessary. Well, I guess, you know, I guess it depends on the person. Because, I mean, it can hurt. You know, words can hurt for sure. Words definitely can hurt. But because it's an air sign, once again, I feel like because it's an air sign, like, the effect won't be as bad, you know. At least you also have, like, if an Aquarius Mercury comes to you and they cuss you out and they hurt your feelings, like, you have a chance of getting over that a lot quicker than if, like I said, a Scorpio did it, or even if a Capricorn did it, you know, because Capricorns are exalted in Mars, and they also have that dark aspect where, you know, they're very heavy and dark and just emo kids, you know. Yeah. But yeah, that Aquarius Mercury's super smart people, you know. And usually, like most air signs, if they're not communicating, they're analyzing and thinking and trying to, you know, observe the situation as a whole, just so that they can know how to approach or not approach, or, you know, decide if they want to associate, because it's 11th house. They'll decide if they want to associate with those group of people. Because here's another thing with air signs, right? Is that air signs are always down to hang out with people if it's a fun time, if it's vibes. But then they always know when it's gonna stop. And then when it stops, they know to leave, you know. Because air signs, opposites are fire signs, and fire signs are super fun. So air signs are always down to have a fun time, a good time, whatever. But they also know when to get the fuck up out of there. That's the thing. That's always the thing. And just like most air signs, Aquarius Mercury's also have, you know, this thing of cutting people off when they communicate. But here's the thing, because an Aquarius Mercury is a lot less impatient, a lot less patient with people. Like, they won't be as, I guess willing to give somebody else a spot like a Libra would, or a Gemini would. Because when an Aquarius speaks, they want to get everything out. And if you cut them off to add something on, or if you want to also say something, they'll get offended that you cut them off. But it's like, my dude, you've been speaking forever now. Like, it's my turn, you know. And there's the thing with the unrelatability, because they're a fixed sign, you know. And also just, like, not changeable, you know what I'm saying? So you can't really change how they want to communicate. And if you try to disrupt when they communicate, it's like you're messing with that fixed modality, you know what I'm saying? And then they want to rebel against you, and then now they look at you like, oh wow, you're so rude. But it's like, my guy, you've been speaking for 30 minutes, like, please give me a chance. And yo, don't let them have an Aries something. Don't let them have an Aries moon. Don't let them have a Sag moon. Loud, and they can't shut the fuck up. They literally just cannot shut the fuck up. Like, it's an impossible mission for them to keep quiet. It's just annoying. And most of the time, it's like, I feel like their jokes, they have like, it is dark humor, because they can't dabble in dark humor. But for them, it's more so like realistic humor, you know? But it's just also the way they can say things can be somewhat off-putting, or like, I guess also very direct. Like, their jokes are direct and realistic, and also how they say it is unique. So, like, for example, in Aquarius Mercury, these will be the type of people to, like, let's say someone broke up with them. Let's say they just went through a breakup or something, right? you won't even get the sense that they're like heartbroken, because they'll be like, yeah, we broke up, we just couldn't stand kissing each other anymore. You know, apparently having someone's saliva for a long time, it's just not healthy for your body. And then you'll be like, okay, well, do you feel bad about it? And they'll be like, do I feel bad about it? Do I feel bad about it? Do I? Shit. They'll start looking at their arms like, I don't know, my arms are still intact. I guess I feel fine, you know? And it's like, oh, okay, well, and then they get all weird and awkward, you know? But to them, like, they love that shit. Like, Aquarius energy loves, like, weird things. Listen, and I know I've been comparing Scorpio and Aquarius this whole thing, but they really are very similar signs, you know? Aquariuses are weird. And then Scorpios are, like, creepy or scary, you know? But both of them make people uncomfortable, you know? It's just an Aquarius, because they're an air sign, they may be a lot more relatable with that. And because Uranus is there, they'll look cool doing weird shit, so you'll want to do weird shit with them, you know? But a Scorpio, because it's a water sign, and then Pluto is there, and Pluto is like a malefic planet. I mean, Uranus is too, but as I say, Uranus is cool. But Pluto being there, you might feel like, for the Scorpio, you might feel like, oh my god, I'm fucking terrified, and you want to run away. So that's like the little difference, you know? But they both are very equipped to make people uncomfortable very quick. Also, Aquarius is just as intense in terms of like the energy that they exude, you know? But that also has to deal with, you know, the outer planet whole situation that I explained to you in the beginning of the video. You know, that's the thing. Aquarius Mercury's though, super, super smart people, super funny people, very sarcastic, very direct to the point. It's like they're either very sarcastic or they're very direct to the point, you know? But they're very funny. It's just like, if you push them to a point where they have to be brutally, brutally, brutally honest about exactly what they think about you, that's the shit that's gonna hurt. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, because it's Aquarius energy, they're very friendly, you know? Like, they're not people that'll be in your face. Like, they won't be the type of people to, like, come to you and introduce you and be like, hi, my name is, you know? Unless on that day they literally want to do that. But that really all depends on the Aquarius Mercury, because really it's an unpredictable sign. So even like the shit they say, like they can say the most like random shit that you would not even expect to hear. And that's how they feel like they should communicate, because it's always like the element of surprise, you know? Surprise is what they enjoy, especially being surprised. But it's very difficult to surprise them because they're so detached in how they even process information, you know, and they're very logical in how they process information. So for every like circumstance, or for every, I guess, issue or whatever life presents to an Aquarius Mercury, they'll look at it from like an objective point of view. It'll be like, oh, okay, that happened. Anyway, you know, it's like very difficult to surprise Aquarius energy, and even if they are surprised, you don't even get the sense that they are surprised, because for them, generally, for them to process any emotion, it takes a while for them to process. And this is why with that Uranus, sometimes like they feel things in the most random time. Like they could plug their charger in the socket and then start to feel like, holy shit, like what? You know, because that's Uranus. Like, Uranus is the one that's busy bringing them, like, unpredictable, weird situations at the most weird time. But even reacting to that, you won't get the sense that this Aquarius Mercury is, like, hectically affected. They'll just look at the situation like, okay, anyway, moving on. You know, like, it's like, weird, but it's like, damn, are you even a person? Are you even a fucking person, you know? But that's just how it is. And yes, Aquarius Mercuries are very intuitive, but that's just that's because of their brain, the brain power, you know, just because they know how to use common sense, but they also bring because listen, Aquarius is right next to Pisces. You know, so the other side of an Aquarius is being intuitive, you know. So this is why Aquarius, and it's because they're the 11th sign, you know, of the scientists, and it's like they know how to wield in like intuition and logic together, you know. So this is how they become very unique artists, you know. Even in their music, think of FKA Twigs, bro. Like her music is weird as fuck, but it's so good. But it's like weird, but it's so good, you know. And that's just how they are. Like that's how they communicate. That's just how they are with everybody else. And they're very detached people, and they're also just very difficult to like figure out because of that unpredictability. But it's like they like to play mind games too, but it's not necessarily to, like, as I said, evoke any emotion. They're doing it for mental stimulation. They want to see like, oh, what are you gonna do? Because that gives them something to think about. And like I said, air signs like to think. That's where they're home at, you know. That's what they function to do, is to think and weigh out situations, conclusions. But with Aquarius being in Mercury, that's Mercury loves being here because it can think in any way. It can think and then put boxes in its thoughts, and then also like just do all kinds of mental gymnastics in Aquarius because it's a genius sign, you know. So if you put a genius sign in a thinking planet, you're thinking like a genius. Or you think very uniquely. You have your own unique thoughts, you know. And you're probably someone that you don't always enjoy when people, like, cause say you have a phrase for yourself. Say you're in Aquarius Mercury and you always have that one thing you say. You know, you always have that one little joke you say. You won't appreciate when someone says that joke too, because you feel like, no, you should be your own individual. You should be your own person. Don't follow me. You know what I'm saying? It could feel uncomfortable for you. And the opposite of you is Leo, and Leos love when people do that shit because it gives them like a sense of like, oh yeah, I'm so cool, oh look at people following me. But Aquariuses don't fuck with that shit, and it's like a crazy thing because Aquariuses, because they are so innovative, like they usually create things that people want to follow. And in Aquarius Mercury, they'll feel like, oh my god, look at these lame dudes following fucking trends that I made. Like, why can't everybody think for themselves, you know? And I get that, like I really get that, but it's like most of the time people like emulating vibes and energies that they want to resonate with. And you as an Aquarius Mercury, just the way you even analyze and think, and if this is with your sun, this is how you act too. So you probably already have like this cool uniqueness, originality thing about you, you know. And having Mercury in Aquarius, this entails that you naturally are a popular person, because Aquarius rules, you know, the masses, like social media, you know, everybody's on social media, so everybody's able to connect with each other. So having a Mercury in Aquarius, and if it's conjuncting your sun sign, you're naturally someone that's going to be popular. And you probably are already popular one way or another, and it just grows as you get older. It just, your popularity, or, you know, you being known just grows gradually and gradually and gradually and gradually, you know. Aquariuses are like celebrities. Even if you're not a celebrity, if you have Aquarius placements in your personal planets, you already have like it's like you have a large group of people that fuck with you just because of how you carry yourself. Generally, you know, just because of how you are. And you always, and it's like, to you, you don't even give a fuck about most things, you know, because you've prioritized and you've ghosted things and people that you don't want, and you've prioritized your life in a way that works for you because you've established your own rules for yourself, aka Saturn, you know, and Uranus. And it's like you could give a fuck about what other people have going on too. And that's, you know, that's the whole opposition thing with the Leo, where you very self-consumed with your own, what's going on in your life, you know, which is a good thing, because you really just stay in your fucking lane. Like, you're someone, Aquarius Mercury stay in their lane, and that's why people fuck with you, you know, because you not only are you staying in your lane, but you're very detached generally, you know, like you're cool. And then you're also like someone that it's like you don't do too much. That's the thing. You're not someone that does too much, because you don't even someone that you don't put yourself in situations where, you know, you feel obligated. And that's the thing with Aquarius Mercuries. Don't make them feel obligated, because just like Sagittarius Mercuries, they're gonna ghost you because they wanna have the freedom to bend and shift shaped into whatever or whenever they want to, you know. So in that way, that could be toxic too. because you'll expect people to be all open arms for you, and you know, want them to open a door so that you can come in and out. And for some people, that's just way too inconsistent, you know, which is also the paradox of things, because you are a fixed sign, but you're also very inconsistent, you know. Aquarius is just a fucking weird sign, bro. But yeah, that's the thing. But that's what you want. You don't want anyone to make you feel obligated, and that's how you think. And you feel like people, and you know sometimes people always come to you because you're the cool person, so people want your advice, and they want, you know, they always want to come to you for advice. You also feel like no. You'll feel like people should have the common sense to think for themselves and make decisions for themselves, you know. And then people that you see don't do that, you'll feel like, oh my god, this person is always going to rely on me to think for them. And bitch, I am no one's mother. I ghost my own mother sometimes. I'm not about to do this with you, bro, you know. That type of thing. That's how you guys think, you know. You always, just like Sagittarius, you guys want the freedom to do and express and say and leave and get out whenever you want to, without any consequence. And there is a consequence, unfortunately. It's just that you are too self-absorbed to care about it anyway. You don't give a fuck. Like, you like, bitch, I don't care, you know. But there's a good and a bad to that too, you know. The good is that you stay in your lane, you focusing on yourself. The bad is that you might step on some people, you know. But eventually you find people that understand that you are just someone that needs space, and you need your own room to do whatever the fuck you want. And then when people start to suffocate that space, you either get that sharp tongue or you just want to escape, because the next sign is Pisces. So you just want to dip, you just want to ghost, you want to leave, because you don't want anyone suffocating your space. And that's the thing with Aquarius. Aquariuses are the astronauts, and they are in space. So, and space has a whole bunch of space, you know, and they need that. You need space. And as an Aquarius, you need room to think, you need time away to think, you know. And I feel like you communicate best, like, I think in one-on-one interactions, you're not someone that does well with just like an intimate type situation. That's why you get really awkward. That's why you prefer being in groups of people, you know, because then you have the room to disappear. Because it's like, when there's a large group of people, like, it's not like you have to hold weight of, you know, when you're in one-on-one, it's like you have to hold your weight in relating this conversation, whatever. Aquariuses don't like that, because once again of the obligation, you know. So they do well in groups, especially like, you know, a large group of people, or if it's like a crowd, you know, because then they can keep quiet and be aloof and quiet if they want to, and not feel like they have to contribute to a conversation, or they can be as loud as they want to, you know. But there's a lot of people, so if they don't feel like talking, there's somebody else who can replace, and then the Aquarius is free to just roam around and do whatever the fuck they want to do, you know. That's the type of thing. But yeah, that's my video on Mercury and Aquarius. These guys are super cool though. They're just like, yeah, they're just super cool, man. Super cool people, super smart and really funny, and really dope to like be around, because they give good advice. Just don't always come to them for that, because they don't want to feel like they are obligated. Don't make them feel obligated. Don't ever make an Aquarius feel obligated. Oh my god. With that being said, I'll see you guys in my next video when we talk about Mercury in Aquarius through the signs, because, you know, everybody could have a Mercury in Aquarius, but everybody will be thinking about different things using their Mercury in Aquarius, and we're gonna dissect that in the next video. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. If you want a reading with me, I do offer readings. Just hit me up on my IG, just DM me. Everything will be down, like the link will be down in the description. And yeah, let's get this shit popping, you know. Anyway, yeah, bye guys.